So a lot of people always ask me what Forbes is about, and I always say in one word, Forbes is about success. What is success to Sean Parker?
Sean wants to shake things up. He wants to be a disruptor. He wants to solve problems. Instead of just starting a company he thinks will make money, he spends sometimes years looking at the problem he wants to solve. For Napster, for example, he saw that the world's going to be shaken up. Because of the internet, you can take content out of his container and trade it through digits. Okay, how does that happen? That Napster was a solution to that problem. Facebook, he was looking for a way to have identity in a world with online. You can be totally anonymous and create fake avatars and pretend something else. Facebook is a way to guarantee that there's identity on the internet. So that was why he got involved in Facebook. Not like, hey, this is going to be a social network and worth billions. He's saying this is a way that you can actually prove your ID and other people's ID on the internet. And what comes of that is out of social networking, out of commerce. You know the other person on the other side of the keyboard.
I read the story.
Thank
you. I didn't just feel like a fly on the wall. I felt like that I was a mosquito buzzing around Sean Parker's ear. That's what it was like. When you went into this, what'd you expect?
I wasn't sure because we've been kind of chasing this story for about a year. We've had little bites here and there, and he was really interested one minute. The next minute, he kind of would fall off the table, so to speak. And I thought I would just be able to get him for an hour and a half somewhere in New York, sit down, talk about some stuff, maybe a follow-up phone call here or there, and then the rest would be all just basically talk to people in his world. Turns out he let me open up and he showed me his world. So the story definitely changed going in.
So what do you think you did to get him to get you the time that you dreamed of having?
I think we're the same age. I was enthusiastic about the story. I was interested in kind of how his mind works. I was interested in how he sees things. I wasn't talking about the rumors about the movie and this and that. It was really about how he does business, and he wanted to kind of show me his network. He wanted to kind of not show off, but show me and the readers that not only does he know people, but he sees his people on a regular basis. He talks to them on the phone. People are reaching out to him. So I went out to San Francisco so I could meet with him and Jack Dorsey. And he wanted to kind of show me just how involved he is in the Silicon Valley world, I believe.
So what's his greatest strength?
I think he's a genius. He can think through all these problems and see it from all these different angles. But I think his biggest strength is a combination of things. He's a tech genius. He understands how the coding works. He can talk to the chief information guy and just know more than he does. At the same time, he takes that expertise in technology, and he can also think big picture, big business-wise, and talk to a CEO. And he's a great salesman. So he's kind of like this visionary CEO that's a great salesman, a great motivator. At the same time, he can talk about the products and build the products from the ground up. And his network's unbelievable. So you put that all together, he's not just, look at some of these Silicon Valley guys, some of them are just, really amazing, genius engineers, and they kind of build the product and they're coding, and then someone else comes in, like a CEO type, and, builds the business and thinks like macro and this. He can do it all.
So he got bounced from how many companies?
3.
Does he have a tragic flaw?
I think his flaw is
Napster. Yeah. He kind of had some problems at Facebook. Mm-hmm. Jim Breyer, yeah. I guess Breyer was the guy who wanted him out. Mm-hmm. But there's something about him. Is it boredom? Is it just sort of where he just yes, he can't run a company. I get all that, but what's the thing that just may stop him from being whatever he can be?
I think why he got bounced from those 3 companies is he's so non-traditional. He's so different from the kind of buttoned-down 9-to-5 VC who comes in at the mid-stage or late stage and tries to run it like an adult company. Sean is all about ideas. He doesn't focus on he doesn't go by a 24-hour clock. He focuses on something, and when it's done, then he moves on to the next thing. When he focuses in, he misses meetings. He might disappear for a few days thinking about this thing or networking here and there. So he's not, you can't contain him in a normal day. And I think when he was 19, 25, that sort of stuff, a traditional manager was kind of saying, who is this? He seemed very flighty.
Right.
That's just the way he works. Maybe he's the kind of guy that stays up till 4 a.m, sleeps until 10, and then he does it all over again. So he's not kind of keeping business hours. At the same time, I talked to about 10 of our Forbes billionaires about Sean, and they're all saying, yes, that's all true, but it's worth the wait. When he's there, it is definitely worth it. He has his vision, he has his genius, and they call him, one guy calls him like the Picasso of business, that he's kind of this, he has ups and downs, and that's what he does. So he's not like a kind of 9-to-5er.
So how much is he worth?
We estimate he's worth $2.1 billion.
Does he know how much he's worth?
No. He'll make 5 calls to see what chef is making the sushi for him at the restaurant before he goes, but he doesn't dwell on his exact percentage of Facebook. He doesn't dwell on what his bank account's doing, because the money is not that important. He knows he has enough money. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But he'd rather focus on the experience and an idea than the fact that he has $100 million in bonds sitting there.
And you say he wants to shake things up.
Yeah.
To what end?
He just wants to, I guess, it's in his blood. It's in his DNA. I mean, when he was 15 years old, he knew he wanted to be an internet entrepreneur, and this is 1995. He was on those dial-up bulletin boards, with the phone jack and everything. And when most people in high school, their goal is maybe to get into a good college, he wanted to, get involved in a company, and he was doing this when he was 16, 17 years old. So it's just kind of, he wants to be where the action is.
The Facebook is cool. That's what it's got going for it.
Yeah.
You don't want to ruin it with ads because ads aren't cool.
Exactly.
It's like you're throwing the greatest party on campus and someone saying it's got to be over by 11.
That's exactly right.
You don't even know what the thing is yet.
That's exactly
How big it can get, how far it can go. This is no time to take your chips down. $1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? You.
I saw the movie.
Yes.
What's he like compared to the movie version?
Completely different. Sean is he's really smart, and he really drills down to the things. I think the character in The Social Network was kind of this slick, kind of playboy guy that kind of sees an opportunity and just latches on and gets lucky and bounces around. Sean is extremely he's an analytic thinker. If he's going to do something, if he's getting involved in a company, he probably knows more about the business and the company than the CEO he's helping out.
So what did he tell you about how he felt about that depiction in the movie?
The movie crushed him, and he had a really bad summer last year. The same time when Forbes is suggesting he's probably worth close to $1 billion, he was holed up in a hotel room for 2 months at the LA Peninsula hotel. He had knee surgery, couldn't walk. He just broke up with his girlfriend of 4 years. And then the movie came out, and he was really bummed out. He basically stayed in the hotel room more or less. He couldn't walk. He gained 30 pounds. And then the movie came out in October, kind of just that last kind of insult, and it really messed him up. He's very cerebral. He's very intense, and he's not that kind of flighty party boy image. He spends a lot of time talking and analyzing and that kind of thing.
There's folks like Bill Gates. Mm-hmm. There's people like Steve Jobs. There's Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep.
Where does he put himself now with those people, and maybe where do you think he wants to be in the future in a company like that?
I don't think he knows. Steve Jobs wants to build this Apple company, and Microsoft is this huge empire. Sean says he doesn't want to ever see himself with a company. He said he might want to eventually have a holding company with all different things that he's kind of created, but he wants to, doesn't want to be in charge of one division. He wants to kind of jump from division to division, so to speak.
All right, so let's go back to the photo shoot for a second. He had a posse.
He has a posse.
Or an entourage.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Yes, he had the Shantourage.
The Shantourage.
So he knew he had a photo shoot. So he had his stylist come out from L.A., and they lined up all the clothes. And in the living room of his $20 million townhouse, he had 3 racks full of Italian suits. There were 20 dress shirts still in the wrapping, all on all the couches. There were suspenders. There was ties. There was 20 sunglasses, 20 pairs of eyeglasses to choose from. So he had the stylist picking out what he wanted to wear. He had hair. He had makeup. He had catering. He had his publicist. And he had his fiancée, and he had a friend there too, and they were just there for the time. And his house is kind of this great 24-hour.
So it wasn't about. Was it about looking perfect, or was it about trying to just play the part perfect, or what was it about?
He's extremely obsessive about design. A lot of the Facebook design he helped create, or he helped at least guide. And he's very particular about his clothes, and that's kind of about his perfectionism. So if he's going to go on a photo shoot and take a photo, he wants it to be he wants to put all his effort into it. And by doing that, if he's doing a photo shoot, he's going to have 10 people there to make sure it's perfect for him, up to his standards. He had a great story in high school. He had this thing that if he had to write a paper and it wasn't up to his standard, he wouldn't hand it in. And he was saying a lot of the time he'd probably get an A or a B plus on the story, but it wasn't up to his standards. So he just not hand it in and get an F because he didn't want to hand in a paper not up to his exacting standards. That kind of shines through today in everything he does, whether he's getting dressed for a photo shoot or creating a platform for Spotify. He wants it to be absolutely up to his standards.
So he's like really motivated, driven to shake things up.
Yeah.
Do you sense any fun or joy in that, or is it just like he's just got to keep going?
There is, the thing with Sean is you explain all these things. He does everything with such excitement that it's kind of contagious. He really does get joy out of having something perfectly executed. And it's exciting, and that's that's what drives him. And it's not like a kind of robotic, like, do this, do this. He gets super excited about something, and then he finishes it, and then he moves on to the next thing. So he has this kind of contagious excitement that if you read it on paper, it might sound like he's being kind of high maintenance or he's almost obsessive, but he does everything with such kind of zeal that you catch on and you kind of want to, do it yourself.
So what do you think he's going to think about your story?
The story really kind of gets into his connections. It gets into how he thinks, and it gets into kind of how he works through problems. And I don't think that's been written about yet, and I think he'll enjoy that. That being said, he's such a perfectionist, I'm sure he will find a few flaws that he will harp on.